evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the zoning public hearing. We are here at 901 Main Street in the heart of Old Town Conyers, and today is September the 22nd. It is still 2022.
Barely.
6 p.m. in the evening here in Rockdale County. We're calling our meeting to order this evening, and we do have a quorum. Tonight, representing the Board of Commissioners will be myself, Chairman Nesbitt, and Post 1 Commissioner, Commissioner Sherry Washington. So Commissioner Williams is out this evening, but we will be moving forward with these proceedings tonight. As we get started, I do want to let everyone know this is a hearing. No decisions will be made tonight. Myself and Commissioner Washington will hear all of the information that is presented to us this evening, and we will take every bit of it, every ounce, into deep consideration. We will follow the clock in the order of how the meeting should be run. I will also share with you that this is a meeting that has to be run with all of the technical aspects, and we have to follow the process and have to follow the procedures. The Planning and Development Department is the host of this meeting, and our Legislative Affairs Director and County Clerk, Executive Director Jennifer Rutledge, has served, or is serving, should I say, as the Interim Director of Planning and Development. Our fine Deputy Director, Mr. Christopher Wheeler, is the Deputy Director inside the Planning and Development Department. So Director Rutledge will be supporting Mr. Wheeler as well as other staff members from the Planning and Development Department. Tonight, I think, is going to be about education and information, and we look forward to hearing from all of the participants this evening. At this time, I'll ask for an approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
It's been properly motioned, and I second. Are there any questions?
I think I got that one.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the approval of the minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes of the June 23rd, 2022 meeting.
I second that motion. It has been properly motioned and second. Are there any questions? No. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. At this time, we'll have the presentation of the rules and procedures for our public hearing.
Each speaker must sign their name to the appropriate zoning case sheet and fill out a public comment card to register their intent to speak prior to the start of this meeting.
Each item of business shall be handled in the order that it appears on the agenda, unless upon motion of the board, the order is changed. A member of the county planning staff will present each item to the board and will provide recommendations made by both the planning staff and the Conyers-Rockdale Planning Commission for each item of business. The zoning applicant or the agent will have 10 minutes in which to make his or her presentation. Any portion of their 10 minutes may be reserved for rebuttal following the opposition to the application. After the applicant's presentation, all registered speakers who wish to speak in favor of the application will then be heard. They will also be limited to a total of 10 minutes. Once the applicant has made his or her presentation and the speakers in favor of the application have been heard, the secretary will then call upon the registered speakers in opposition to the application. The opposition shall likewise be limited to a total of 10 minutes. Once the public hearing portion is closed, no other speakers will be heard. As a reminder, speakers are to address the board and not the applicant or the audience and are expected to conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. The use of abusive or profane language shall not be allowed. No debate or argument between speakers shall be permitted. After all public comments have been heard, the board may elect to hold general discussion. However, no decisions will be rendered at this hearing. Decisions will be made at the next regularly scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting. Appeals shall be filed with the Clerk of Rockdale County Superior Court within 30 days after the final decision by the Board of Commissioners.
Well, it doesn't get more plain and clear than that. I really like Ms. Owens' voice because her voice is kind of matter of fact. Well, thank you to the Public Relations Department for giving the rules and procedures for our public hearing tonight. There is no old or unfinished business at this time. Commissioner Washington, it's time for us to move into new business.
I agree.
Item number 7.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioner Washington. How are you guys doing?
We're
Good evening. Good evening, Director.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello, hello?
It's,
Chief Cape will take care of it. All right. While Chief is doing that, I just know that you've got a Saturday morning voice. So go ahead and, for the sake of time, use your Saturday morning voice while he makes the adjustment.
he's a millennial. His Saturday morning voice is sleep.
Sir?
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioner
Good
Washington.
evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For those who do not know me, again, my name is Christopher Wheeler. I'm the Deputy Director for Rockdale County Planning and Development.
All right, sir.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
The first case that was brought to you this evening is RZ-22-07 and I'm sorry, Flume case 22-07 and RZ case 22-014. The applicant is Oakmont Acquisition. The applicant is requesting to change the future land use map from high density residential to light limited industrial and to rezone 9 properties from residential, single-family residential development to limited industrial. I'm going to read out for the record, there are 9 properties, so I'm going to list out the addresses for the record. Those addresses are 1716, 1726, 1736, 1980, and 1670 Lester Road, 1630, 1632, 1634 Farmer Road, and 1975 Sigmund Road for a total of 49 acres. Again, the applicant is looking to rezone the property and amend the future land use map for the construction of a 410 200 square foot bulk industrial warehouse. On the screen now is the current zoning of the property. Again, the current zoning of the 9 parcels are R1, single family residential development. Oops, sorry. Again, the future land use for the subject property again is high density residential. Again, this is just an aerial photo to give you a kind of idea of where the subject properties are located. The properties have frontage along Lester Road, along Farmer Road, and again, there's a small sliver that has frontage along Sigmund Road. To give a summary of the application, the applicant is looking to construct a bulk distribution. Again, the subject property is adjacent to existing industrial warehouse sites. There are no high-density developments located within the immediate area or even on the subject property. The property has the current single-family vacant homes on. I mean, not vacant, but single-family homes on it. The property again is along a minor arterial. And access from the site was going to be along Farmer Road. They have 2 access points, one for trucks and one for office workers as well. Again, to kind of go over some of the specifics of the site plan, again, as you can see, they're intending to do a bulk distribution of warehouse. Again, as you can see, along Farmer Road, there are 2 access points. Again, one for the trucks to actually entry and then kind of do a loop as they kind of do, internal stacking, and then as well as further up along Farmer Road, again, for the for office workers. Again, the applicant is determined to, not determined, but is going to actually do septic for as a temporary use. I mean, not temporary use, but a temporary solution, because they do not have they don't have the capacity for sewer at this point in time. They're actually working with DeKalb and in our water resources to find portable water for the development. Again, they are going to do detention pond as well. They have no intention of doing anything to the actually existing lake of the property. If you kind of look to the northwestern of the site, again, there is an existing utility easement that they have to stay out of. If they want to encroach into that utility easement, they have to get permission from the utility provider. There is a 75-foot transitional buffer located to the northwest of the subject properties. Again, the property is to northwest of it is single family. That single family is sandwiched in between this property and the industrial property as well. So the applicant is aware of that buffer, and they intend to maintain that buffer if approved. So therefore, before I get started, the applicant is currently working on a traffic study. The applicant did not have a traffic study when they went before the planning commission, so that kind of segues into to the recommendation. Staff did recommend approval of this application, but however, the planning commission did recommend denial of the application based off their concerns when it comes to traffic analysis or the traffic impact on the site. The applicant is here. The applicant has intended to ask for a deferral back to the planning commission to have time to actually complete their traffic study.
Okay, Deputy Director Wheeler, you're doing a fantastic job, and I like the way you thoroughly present this information, and that is really good. I'm going to yield to Commissioner Washington at this point and see if she has any questions for the Deputy Director at this point before we move to the next piece of this.
Not for the Deputy Director.
Okay, all right. So, Executive Director Rutledge, what is our pleasure at
Move
this
to
point?
the applicant presentation.
Okay, all right. So we'll bring the applicant up. Come on up, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name's Alex Brock with
Good
Smith
evening.
Gambrell Russell.
Good evening.
My office address is 1105 West Peachtree Street. I work for Smith Gambrell Russell, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Oakmont Pacolet Acquisitions. And we're here tonight to request a deferral of this application. Deputy Director Wheeler gave a thorough overview of the application and the facts of the matter, so I won't reiterate those. And I'll keep my presentation fairly brief since we are presenting a deferral or requesting a deferral. But there are a few facts I'd like to point out to kind of give us a history of how we got to a deferral tonight.
Okay.
Before we filed our application, we had reached out to Kathy Sickert in our office had reached out to Mr. Chair regarding the proposal for a industrial complex, and it was suggested to reach out to the community, to engage the community for comment and feedback prior to any submittal being applied for. We spoke with Coach Stroud. We also sent correspondence to a Dr. Linda Young. We have copies of that correspondence tonight, and I'd like to hand out samples of that. Okay. We didn't receive any response back from the initial response, but we set up a community meeting for September 1st. We sent out letters to property owners within 500 feet of the property to notify them of the community meeting. At the September 1st community meeting, we had one attendee from the property owner across Leicester attend the meeting. She did not have any opposition or concerns with the application. So we proceeded forward to the Planning Commission under the pretense that there was little community opposition to this. At the Planning Commission, however, we found out there were a number of concerns from the community that we were unaware of at the time. Chief among those was traffic and truck access to the...
Hang on one second. Ms. Davis, you and the staff can come to these seats up front here, please. Thank you so much. Okay, if you would just repeat that last piece for me, please.
Yes, of course. At the Planning Commission, there was a number of concerns raised from the community. Chief among those were traffic and truck access to the site. So after that meeting, we went back. We've engaged an engineer to begin a traffic study. We were not required to submit a traffic study with our initial application. But knowing that is a critical concern to the community, we feel that it is necessary to expend the effort or time and effort to produce that data. And we feel it's this body cannot make a, I guess, informed judgment without producing a traffic study at this point. And we would like to offer the opportunity to meet again with the community before coming back before this board or the Planning Commission, so that we can address some of their concerns once we get the traffic study completed, so that we have a better picture of how the facility will operate within the community. So we are here tonight to request deferral. Typically, we like to address a lot of these issues early on in the process so we can avoid these delays and be before you tonight requesting deferral. But we understand that there are genuine concerns of the community, and we are taking steps to address those concerns through the production of a traffic study, and we respectfully request that you defer this application to the January or refer it back to Planning Commission in the January Board of Commissioners hearing. Thank you. And I'll reserve any remaining time for rebuttal if needed.
So at this point, I have a few questions for you and a couple of comments. Number one, I'd like for you to just take a moment and clearly state your name again for me, please.
Yes, my name's Alex Brock. I'm with the law firm Smith Gambrell Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. First, I'll start out with is a question, Executive Director Rutledge, with the request of the deferral, with our load of business and the fact that October will wrap up all of planning and development for Rockdale County in 2022, that means that this case will come back up when?
It will be January, and we've actually been in contact with the applicant and let them know that we will not be holding hearings in November and December, so their request for a 60-day deferral wouldn't make the October, so we're looking at January.
Very good. So thank you so much, Executive Director. One of the things, and I'm really glad that you said it, but I want to put a little bit more emphasis on it, okay? Mm-hmm. You made mention of the fact that you had spoken with some of the residents that were immediately adjacent to this area of concern. And then you went on to talk about perhaps having another community meeting. One of the things I've said over time with all of these planning and development meetings with development through Rockdale County, it's always in the best interest of the developer to speak to as many of the local residents as possible. I heard you make mention to a couple of names. Let me just say this to you, that during this time, I think it was smart that you asked for a deferral. This will give you plenty of time to go back and meet with other members of that community, because it's not just with those who have the immediate, who are adjacent to the property of the project. I think when we think about traffic, you mentioned doing a traffic study and analysis and coming back with the results of that. We have to consider the entire area that's going to be impacted, whether a property is immediately attached or adjacent or not. Just the flow of traffic of those folks that live in that community will make a difference. I think time is on your side. I think it was smart to ask for that deferral so that you can go back, again, do the traffic study, and try to reach as many people in the community as you possibly can. Life is about relationships. This is a hearing. We don't know what the result will be until we get back sometime in January and you all are before us. But knowing that you've gone out into the community, speaking with residents and people who have concerns, I have to commend you for that. And I would encourage you to take as much time as you can to meet as many people and to slow it down and explain it to them as it's going to impact them. I'm going to yield to Commissioner Washington at this time. Commissioner?
Those were almost everything that I was going to say, so I'm a ditto. But I'm also going to ask, I would be most interested to see if you all in your traffic study could do kind of an analysis of what the projected kind of traffic for a high-density residential, which is what they would be subjected to if we didn't have to plan the zoning, and what it's going to be now with the future land use plan. I would like to see that analysis. And I'm huge on aesthetics, and so I would like to see something, if we were to approve this, something that makes this more than just a warehouse sitting there because you're severely impacting these people's life, and I want to make sure that if they have to look at a warehouse for the rest of their life, that it's a quality aesthetics. And I'm not saying that I'm a approve or anything. I just want to those would be my primary concerns.
And Just a point of clarification, if I may. When you speak to aesthetics, are you talking about both architectural and landscaping?
More
Or
landscaping.
More landscaping.
But if we could throw the architectural in there, that would be commendable.
Okay, that point's well taken. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that,
So now we're on to public comment. I'm sorry, were you finished with your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
and Director, if you raise your microphone up a little bit there, there you go.
Yeah, so now we're on to public comment.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, very good.
We have 4 people speaking in opposition tonight. The first one is Ms. Linda Akins-Young. I'm sorry, Dr. Lyndon Akins-Young.
All right. Dr. Young, come on up.
Good evening,
Good
my
evening.
Rockdale County Commissioners.
Good evening.
We meet again.
Yes.
I am Linda Akins Young, and I reside at 1869 Farmer Road in Conyers. I'm here to speak on behalf of myself and the numerous residents of Farmer, Lester, and Sigmund Roads. Chairman Nesbitt, would you ask the citizens present from our communities that oppose this agenda item to stand?
Will all those that oppose this agenda item please stand at this time?
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I also have 12 pages of a petition from residents of Farmer and Lester Roads of those who could not be here this evening. We are vehemently opposed to this item, which seeks to rezone 48.7 acres from high-density residential and single-family residential to industrial for the purpose of placing a truck warehouse, truck stop, whichever, in our residential communities. This evening, I'm going to be brief, at least compared to last time. I only have 3 pages. Last time I had 7. I sent an email to each of our commissioners on Monday sharing details about the reasons that we are asking that they deny this request. We oppose the proposed zoning request because of our concern for our safety. Traffic of 120 to 150 or more trucks traveling in and out our neighborhoods will endanger our lives. The location of this proposed facility is our only route in and out of our neighborhoods. Additionally, these trucks traveling on streets will have to park on the side of the road, waiting for their bay arrival times, which presents even more danger for us.
I'm sorry, there what arrival times? I didn't hear that.
Their bay arrival time. If the
Bay
truck gets
arrival.
there
Okay, I just
before it's
didn't
their
hear.
time, then they have to wait someplace to be able to come
I just
in.
didn't hear the word.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's good.
Honestly, the idea of a truck stop in our neighborhood or in any residential neighborhood is alarming. We oppose the rezoning because of the noise, pollution, and everything else, possibly drugs, theft, whatever will come from having nearly 50 acres of trucks coming and going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in and out of our neighborhood. We oppose this rezoning because of the impact it's going to have on our streets. We already have dump trucks and other heavy equipment vehicles, substantial traffic using our neighborhoods day and night is their route to and from Sigmund Road. At our home, we must cross the street to get our mail, which is an accident waiting to happen. We literally have to run for our lives to cross the street to get the mail and then return back to our driveway. My daughter says it reminds her of the video game Frogger, where the poor little frog attempts to reach the other side of the road without getting hit by various vehicles traveling at high rates of speed. The applicant mentioned the need for a traffic study. As residents of Farmer Road and Lester Road, we do not need a traffic study to know that Farmer and Lester Roads have traffic almost comparable to any interstate during rush hour. The only difference is that we're 2 lanes. We oppose this rezoning request because it violates the Rockdale County Land Use Plan. If we don't have enough industry, warehouses, multifamily housing in our county, then these entities should be required to select areas in the county that have not been developed in communities. They should not be allowed to submit a request for residential areas. These entities appear to be targeting our well-established minority communities. This Oakmont acquisitions just recently tried to invade and get the same approval passed in the Rock Ridge Road area, which is another one of our established Black communities. On September the 8th, we met with Rockdale County Planning and Zoning Board to share our concerns. We were fortunate that they understood our concerns and understood what was best for the citizens in this area, and they voted to deny this proposal. We pray that you, our county commissioners, will take the same position, allowing Farmer, Lester, and Sigmund Road residents to live and exist in peace. We also plead with you not to delay this agenda item until January. We are not interested in talking about a truck stop in our neighborhood. We already know our position. There's nothing that they can say that can make us want to have it. I never received a letter about a meeting. I did receive a letter from a lawyer, but that was during vacation time, and I was in and out. I didn't have time to meet with him, nor was I interested in meeting with someone, because I know where I stand on this issue. But we pray that you will take the position as the same as the planning committee, and allow us to live in peace in our community without having 48 acres of a warehouse truck stop in our community. Thank you.
Ms. Shannon, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have other speakers.
All right, call the next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Ms. Karen McClemick.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Karen McClinick, and I live at 1845 Kings Row. All of the residents of Royal Lake Estates have signed a petition asking that you deny this request. I have a copy here for if you need to see that. Our homeowners take pride in our community. When we bought our homes, it was based on the belief that the parcels of land in the area would remain strictly residential. We were here just a year ago asking that you deny requests to rezone parts of our community from residential to industrial. We are here again with that same request, asking that residential property in our community remain residential. The residents of Royal Lake Estates and surrounding areas already have limited access to Sigmund, Covington, and I-20 due to the recent expansion of Great Southern Wood, that huge warehouse on Old Covington, and the many businesses along Plunkett with lots of trucks. And we also have the opening of Wilson Academy across the street with cars coming in and out. Because of this, many of us now take Lester to Farmer just to get to I-20. The proposal of Oakmont to construct this large warehouse with 150 trailers and 120 trucks would literally box our residents into our neighborhood. A traffic study, we agree, is not necessary because we already know that the traffic is bad in that area. Anyone who has driven Lester or Farmer knows that more traffic on these short, windy roads that don't have a good line of sight in many sections is bad enough without more industrial traffic. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, there was an accident at Lester and Farmer where a truck tried to turn from Lester into Farmer, and there was a huge accident. The applicant told us at the planning meeting that industrial was here before some of us got here, as though we should just be okay with whatever industrial expansion comes to our neighborhood. Well, we are not okay with it. We have many concerns, and they are listed in the petition, so I won't list them again since our time is running out. But we just ask that you do not approve this request. We don't think that the applicant would find this acceptable in their neighborhood, and we don't want it in ours. We ask that you please deny this request.
Thank you, Ms. McClinton.
Next to speak is Mr. Alan Tart.
Mr. Tart, come on up, Mr. Tart.
Hello, Commissioner
Good evening.
Good evening.
and Ms. Washington. I think just about anything that I can refer to has already been said, but I just wanted to bring your attention to a specific within the request. In researching that request, there's one address, 1980 Lester Road. Even if you go on the GPS and you use the GPS to try to find that location, it's on the complete opposite side from all of the other addresses. The other addresses go back to Farmer Road. They start right at the 1760 and go back up to Farmer Road. And I noticed the other day that somebody had taken the sign and moved the sign from Farmer Road back toward Lester. And that happened overnight. I don't know why. But we definitely need you all to consider just scrapping this request altogether. Traffic is a nightmare, and that's only going to add to our problem if something of a light industrial complex is touched on the opposite side. Matter of fact, 1800, the only 1800 address that I'm familiar with is 1855. And so I don't even understand how they came up with that, because if you look at your GPS, you will not find that once you come down Plunkett and make a right. You will not find that address. So we respectfully request that you turn down and deny this request for the future with this particular person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stark. Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Thank you.
And the last speaker is Trent Pippin.
Mr. Pippin, come on up.
Well, I've been left no time, even though this affects me more than anyone. If you can pull up the map, my property is completely being wrapped. I'm 1985 Sigmund Road. This whole thing is going to completely wrap my property, and I have no road access. So even if I wanted to do something commercial or industrial with it, I don't even have that option. So as it is now, please reject it. It's going to, my property that I inherited from my father will be valueless.
Would you tell me your address again?
1985 Sigmund Road. If they talk to anybody in the community, it should have been me, because this property completely surrounds mine. This was my family's land. It was my family's land, and my dad left me for it and his wife, and they're selling it, and I only have a single car access that I share with that property that's being rezoned. So please, don't.
Thank you, Mr. Pippin. Okay, so that concludes that portion.
Was there anyone signed up to speak in favor? And I believe the applicant has a balance of time.
Yes. Was there anyone in favor of it?
No, Chairman, except
All right.
only the applicant.
Okay, all right.
Did you want to take the remainder of your time?
I just briefly.
Okay.
Again, we heard a few points tonight, primarily with traffic and truck access and trucks accessing Lester and Farmer Road. The traffic study that we are preparing one of the facets of it will not only be the impacts on the adjacent roads, but also the truck routes that it will take. We anticipate showing that the truck routes will be primarily to the south towards I-20, away from the residential areas. But again, it's premature to have that information tonight because we have not prepared the traffic study. And we are willing to reach out to the community again, because I think there is a portion of education with the community of how this facility will operate and how the trucks will enter and egress the facility and drive through the community, and how it will impact the adjacent roadways. And we will definitely talk to Mr. Pippin. He should have received some of the notifications that we sent out, particularly if he is adjacent to our property. I don't have that list of people that were notified with me tonight, but we will make sure that we definitely reach out to him here in the near future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so that closes out this item, and we are ready for the next item.
And thank you so much, Director. One of the things I do want to say right before we go to the next item, one of the best benefits about this process is just that. It's a process. So we have to follow by the law to complete the process all the way through. I've heard the comments from several of you all, but we have to make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's and do it the proper way. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So as the commissioner said, I stated earlier, no decisions are made this evening, but we hear you, and we hear you loud and clear. So I just wanted to say that. Let's go to the next item, please.
Maybe just pause for just a moment.
We'll take a minute for transition.
Yes. Okay, I think we're ready now to start the next item. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The last item for today's agenda.
I'm sorry, let me do this. Just want to do this. One of the things that I asked, and the chief of staff was able to get the PR representative to raise the volume of the microphone so that we could hear and that you could hear everyone that's presenting. Believe it or not, the little bit of chitter chatter that you're having while the speakers are speaking makes it difficult for other folks to hear. I just want to ask that you be mindful and be respectful so that we can get through the proceeding tonight and we can move accordingly as planned. So let's just use a little bit of refrain and restraint with speaking so that we won't have to compete against the speakers who are speaking this evening. Just a little bit of respect. Thank you so much. Deputy Director Wheeler.
Yes, sir. The last case for this evening, it is, I'm sorry, I had a brain freeze up. Future land use case 22-008, rezoning case 22-15. Subject property is 1066 Hunting Creek Road. The applicants are Constance and Anthony Thomas. The applicants are requesting to amend the future land use map and rezoning map from residential to office institutional for the operation of a daycare. Just again, for the record, again, the subject property is 1066 Hunting Creek Road. Again, the subject property is 5.84 acres, and again, the applicants are requesting to change the future land use map and rezoning to operate a daycare. Again, this is just the future land use. Again, so the subject property, it has the medium density residential character designation. Next is the actual current zoning of the subject property. Again, the subject property is R1, single family residential zone district. This again is just a point of reference for the subject property. Again, the subject property has access along Hunting Creek Road. Located to the south part of it is the Tony Valley subdivision. Located to the east of it is the Summit Creek subdivision. Located to the west is the Pine Shore subdivision. As you can see, abutting the subject property to the west are commercial zone properties, and then on the periphery of the commercial node are institutional zone properties as well. This is just kind of a closer look of the existing church. Again, it is an existing church. The applicant plans to just use the existing space for their daycare. There will not be any type of land disturbance on the subject property. The applicant started the process of actually getting a business license through planning and development. Upon going through the review process, they were told that they did not have the current zoning to operate a full-fledged daycare. So that's why the applicant is here asking for the rezoning change. Again, just kind of do a summary of it. Again, the applicant has gone through the initial process of getting a business license for the daycare. They have also started the review process with right from the start with the state. Right from the state is all ready to give them approval. They're just waiting on for the correct zoning for the issuance of their permit. Again, to reemphasize that there is no construction, no grading happening on the subject property. Again, access to the property they have 2 access points along the Honey Creek Road for entering and exiting. Again, the subject property is again adjacent to commercial and office institutional, and the future land use designations located to the subject property are in commercial and office institutional. So therefore, and this is the interior layout for the daycare. Again, the fire department has reviewed and approved this as well. So therefore, the Planning Commission did recommend approval with conditions, as well as staff recommend approval with conditions as well.
And what are those conditions, Deputy Director?
Those conditions are the applicant shall comply with all requirements from the state of Georgia right from the start. The applicant must comply with all office institutional zoning requirements if approved of zoning. Where abutting incompatible uses of district, a buffer is required to conform with the Chapter 28. So therefore, if they do any type of outstanding grading or any type of construction, therefore they have to include a buffer, a transitional buffer for the properties located to the east of it. And that buffer would be a 50-foot buffer as well.
Okay. Commissioner Washington, I think I've heard everything I need to hear on this one. Do you have any questions or comments for the Deputy Director?
Not right now. Of course, when I go to sleep and wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's when I have all my questions.
He won't be available then, I'm gonna tell you that now. Neither will I. Absolutely. You call me
Jamie's
that time.
always available.
If you call it that time, it needs to be a real emergency.
Jamie is always available.
But we're gonna yield to keep this process moving. What's our next step here?
So the applicant's here if y'all want to speak. I see that look, but it's available if you would like to.
Chairman has already spoken.
Okay. Do we have anyone signed up in opposition or support of?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Well, then, if you don't want to speak, just want to make sure that you don't want to approach the podium. Okay.
Just want to tell y'all hello. Nice meeting y'all.
Nice to meet you.
And there's no one
Can I
that's...
ask a question, though? Have you done any analysis to see the value add to the community? I know for a while there was a great need in Rockdale County for daycare services, especially with people coming back to work after the pandemic and things like that. So could you speak to how this may be a benefit to the community?
Yes, and that was the purpose of it. We want to just provide some affordable child care, not only to the people at the church, but within the community. So that's the purpose.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right.
And she's the brains of the operation, my wife. So anything else I need to contribute?
All right, very good.
And Mr. Chairman, there's no public comment.
Well, that's very good as well. All right. Once again, that concludes our business, right?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna close it out in just a second, but I want to go back and Commissioner Washington and commend the Deputy Director for the presentation this evening. And I've seen a tremendous improvement in the presentation and the coordination and collaboration out of the Planning and Development Department in terms of how they're presenting. I also appreciate the number of citizens that have come out just to listen, to be educated, and to watch, and to understand this process. And I think this is a big benefit to all of us, and we'll come back at the appropriate time and make a decision. As relate to the last presentation, I'll go ahead and say this. I really do appreciate when folks do their due diligence, and they dot all of their I's and cross all their T's, and they've done their homework. That makes the process a lot smoother, so that when the commissioners and I are making a decision, we have all of the facts relevant and relative to what's being decided upon, so we can make the right decisions. Commissioner Washington, do you have any closing comments?
No, well, I do want to thank everybody that is here tonight and stayed through this entire process. It means a lot when you see citizens that are concerned about all of Rockdale County, not just their neighborhood. So I commend you all. Thank you all so much for coming and hearing everything. That's all I have.
Deputy Director Wheeler, is there any other business according to you?
No, I just want to say, I just want to thank my staff for the amount of work they've here. Actually, I want to call out Ms. Amy Davis and Ms. Tracy Roberts.
Let's give them a round of applause. That's what I want to do.
Also, I want to say Ms. Claire as well. Like I say again, I'm able to do these presentations without with
No
their
one
help
gets
as well.
anything
So,
done by
yes,
themselves.
yes,
Give
yes,
Claire
sir,
a round of
yes, sir.
applause.
So yeah, that's all I want to say is just thank you to them for the work they do for the
You
county.
keep up the good work, Deputy Director. Executive Director Rutledge, is there anything else?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Ladies and gentlemen, happy Thursday evening. This meeting is adjourned.